Reverend Yu for the third lecture of today. Thank you. Let's give him a hand.
I hope you enjoyed your lunch, everybody. Let's make an effort nobody to doze after their lunch. So I think you probably will have understood a lot from this diagram, but perhaps there might be something that you don't quite understand, then please, pray about it and try to understand more deeply in that manner. So let's talk about God's attributes. So within God's attributes, we have both the divine image and the divine nature. So divine nature is a secondary attribute, whereas divine image is the primary or direct attribute. So God is not visible to us, and yet God has a form. So in the divine image, we have the universal image and individual image. So all created beings carry God's nature. The universal image of God exists in all created beings. That's why we call it the universal image. So within the universal image, we have the dual characteristics of original internal nature and original external form, which is the direct or primary attribute. And then we have the characteristics of original positivity and original negativity, which are the indirect attributes or secondary attributes of God's universal image. So in divine principle, they don't use the word of attribute when referring to God's original Songsang and original Gyeongsan. But within Wally Bonche OSDP education, we talk about the internal character and external form as God's attributes. So which existed first out of these attributes, or God? God or the attributes in God? So we can look at Father's words to explain these things more deeply. So original internal nature and original external form are their primary attributes of God, or direct attributes. But the original positivity and original negativity are indirect attributes of God. Because they are the attributes of the original or primary attributes. So, all created beings are individual truth bodies that have internal nature and external form, and yet they are in an individualized realization of that. They're individualized examples of the universal image. So created beings that have God's individual universal image in individualized form exist in symbolic form. So created beings are symbolic individual truth bodies, but human beings created in God's direct image are individual truth body in image form, the image of God. So in God's original So we have original internal nature and original external form. So God exists with original internal nature and original external form. The original internal nature of God corresponds to God's mind. So our own mind is our internal character, and this resembles God's mind, which is God's original internal nature. So original internal nature corresponds to God's mind, and the most basic element of that is Shimjong. So the most essential aspect of God's original mind is Shimjong, and that is the root and source of true love. So from Shimjong, that's where we see character, true love. God is a God of Shimjong for that reason, the original substance of Shimjong. So within that, there are the four different realms of heart: parents' heart, parents' Shimjong, child Shimjong, sibling Shimjong, and Shimjong between husband and wife. Parents Shimjong, husband-wife Shimjong, and child Shimjong. However, within the child's realm, there are many different children, and that becomes the source of the Shimjong between brothers and sisters. So all in the created world, all the created beings that resemble God in their internal nature, resemble God's original internal nature, and that is the source of their functions. An original external form corresponds to God's body, and for example, God is a God of principle. So we ask about how did God create the world? What was it that God used to create the world? What kind of being is God such that we resemble him? In the Bible, it's said that God is spirit. If God is invisible but he exists in spirit, how is God supposed to, how can it be that God manifests in substantial world? And then they had to establish the idea that God came from nothing, that God is the being that creates something from nothing. But then this is criticized by communistic thought and criticized as being unscientific, and came up with their own answers, and then they gave the what the so-called scientific explanation that God does not exist, that only the material world exists. So we have these two different ways of explaining God in conflict, and that needs to be resolved through the principle. How long? So the question is, why was Christianity, so many billions of Christian believers around the world have not been able to resolve the issues or the force of the ideological force of communist thinking? In communist thinking, there is no God, there is no spirit, and based on that, they explain evolution. There is no God, there is no creator, only evolution. So original external form, 진료, substance. So the original Hyeongsang is the source of the form and shape of all created things. Let's have a look here. So we take some wood to make this podium. Have a look here. So wood is the material used to make something. This material can be made into various different forms. It can make a podium like this, or it can make a desk, make a chair. It can even make a house with wood. It's something that can be used in a variety of ways as a material. And depending on the purpose that it's used, the form of that material is different. So all of the created beings are created from God's original external form. Therefore, their nature, that's the substance, comes from God's original external form. So the contents of that is expressed. But Songsang is different. Internal nature is the design, is the blueprint from which that external form is created or designed and shaped. So because of this was not understood within the Christian sphere, that's why communist thought came out into the world. So even if Christians say to people in the world today, believe in God, there's believe in God, just have faith. But people in the world today can't accept that because it's not been explained. And the people of the world today have a very scientific, rational thinking to such a developed extent that they can't just accept it on faith. So it's really important to explain this in a very clear, logical, rational way so that people can receive it, and then they have to accept it. Because we are designed to understand and accept that which is rationally explained. So truth is something that can... So the source of chili, the source of truth, the original substance of truth is the principle. So original... So God has original internal nature, original external form, manifested into the created world, so find in a great diversity of forms and diversity of expressions. So every one of those forms has some special, unique, and individual aspects. Even twins that are born together are not exactly the same. There is every being has some unique aspect. So because we're actual, substantial, individual truth bodies expressed from God, expressing God's unique nature. So two different forms of individual truth body in symbolic form or in image form. So Hyeongsang and Songsang are different. The question is, what does that external form symbolize? If you look at the United States of America, what does America symbolize? Has a city. What symbolizes America is the flag. It doesn't look like America, but it's a symbol of the flag. It's a symbol of America, even though America as a nation has a certain shape, certain structure and form, but the symbol of it is the flag. So God's nature expressed into the world just as a flag symbolizes a nation, for example, then the created beings in the world are symbolic of God's nature. Because the original substance is the source of truth. and from that comes substance.
그래서 오늘 이 본성상과 본형상의 이 근본 속성을 밝히고 말미암아
By elucidating this basic nature of original internal nature and original external form,
하나님 속에도 이런 내용이 가지고 있었지 않냐? 그런데 성경에는 그렇게 표현한 게 없다는 거예요.
then we can understand that all of these qualities in God. But the Bible does not talk about these. It talks about God as spirit and God as love, but that's about it.
하나님의 보이지 않지만 그 신성과 능력이
On the other hand, in the book of Romans, it does say that God's nature and God's substance.
나타난 모든 피조물은 다
Yeah, in Romans 1:20, it says that God's nature is understood in the things that have been made.
그러니까 하나님으로 그런 속성이 있다는 얘기야. 이게 잘못하게 되면 자연 만물이 모두 하나님으로 알게 되는 그런 내용도 설명할 수 있게 되는 것이죠. 그리고 그 자연이 신이다. 이런 얘기도 역사 속에서
In history, we can find examples where people who don't understand these basic principles look at nature and think that nature itself is God.
속성 속에 있었던 것이 보이지 않지만
But
실제로 경계되어 나온 것이다.
But nature is the actual manifestation of God and God's nature. It is not God itself.
소재도 있고 형태를 나타낼 내용도
So within external form, God's original external form, we have that material that can be manifested in various ways, and then the shape and structure and format.
자, 그러면 본성사와 본형상의 더 깊은 내부 구조를 한번 보도록
Let's have a look at more deeper internal structure of God's original internal nature and God's original internal form.
하기 때문에 하나님을 근본적으로 좀 소개하기 위해서 그 속성을 밝히는 것이 전 시간에 말씀했듯이 아버님 밝힌 원리 본질은
So the original substance of divine principle that was revealed by Father is the key to resolving all the realistic problems in the world. And it doesn't just solve all of those problems, it's content that allows us to penetrate the world of God's heart, to understand the deep secrets of God's heart.
내부적인 구조를 보게 되면
If we look at the internal structure, the internal nature,
내적 성상,
we've got the inner internal nature and the inner external form.
성상도 두 분의
Inner internal nature,
내적 성상이 있고 내적인 형
original internal nature has both an inner aspect and an outer aspect.
뭘까? 그것은 지정
So what is the inner internal nature, or the inner aspect of God's original internal nature?
참여하는 기능이 지정입니다. 근데 그 지정이가 어디서 왔느냐?
The content of that is intellect, emotion, and will. So we have emotion, we have intellect, we have will. And what's the source of that?
어디서 왔다고
Where did it come from?
설명하는 사람이 없습니다.
There's no one who explains this in history, in philosophy.
내용을 소개를 좀 했어요. 그러나 그 근본을 소개를 못했습니다.
They talk about intellect and emotion and will, but cannot explain the source of it. But in True Father's OSDP content,
하나님 그런 속성이 있어서
it explains that God has that character, and that's why it manifests in human beings. So where is that aspect, or where those attributes are?
그 마음 중에서도 더 근본적인 내적인 성상 속에 있다.
Even within God's mind, there is an even more internal,
그러면 이 지정이는
an inner internal nature.
하는 기능이냐? 첫째 지는 인식
So what are the functions of intellect? Function of intellect is to recognize, to cognize different things.
할 수 있는 기능이 이 지혜에 해당하는 것입니다.
What's the function of the intellect?
그 지혜에 해당하는 인식성, 지적 기능은 또 세 가지가 있습니다.
And then within cognition, there are three different functions: sensitivity, understanding, and reason.
철학은 근본 문제를 파헤쳐가지고 존재의
This
밝히는
illuminates some basic problems that are not being resolved by philosophy.
것도 모르는 것이죠. 어디에 해당하는 것도 모르는 것이죠.
In philosophy, they understand that these things exist, but they don't understand where they come from or the way that they relate to other aspects of existence.
그러니까 물체를 봤다. 눈이 보는 것이죠.
So when you see an object, see it with your eye, you cognize it
그래서
through our five senses.
감성이라는 것입니다.
That's what sensitivity is. We see things around us or we feel them through our five senses and we recognize them. That's sensitivity. Then understanding is like searching for the true nature of something. Is this that? And then the function of reason is that which allows us to look at something and understand its universal nature and its individual nature. What about gravity? Newton, when he looked at an apple falling, everybody was just looking at the apples falling and didn't really come to any conclusions. But Isaac Newton had a different way of looking at it, using his reason to understand, well, why is that falling? What's going on here? So that's the process where he discovered the principle of gravity. When he's thinking about the cause and the effect, we see that the apple falls. What's the cause of this happening? So that ability to understand about the cause and effect relationship between apples falling to the ground. And then we can say that through these various things, sensitivity, understanding, and reason, he was able to cognize the situation. This is what intellect is. Then there's also emotion. It's emotional, affection. All of the different emotional functions, joy, sorrow. When we're happy and joyful, we sing songs. When we're upset, we can be angry and cross. When we're sad, shed tears. When we're happy or joyful, sing songs, make dances. And all of these happen because of an emotional function within our mind. So from the viewpoint of OSDP, why do we have these natures? Because within God there is emotion, and this is a manifestation of God's emotional nature. And in God's case, when God is sorrowful, he is like sorrowful to an unlimited sorrow, or happy, unlimited happiness, or unlimited joy. But in Christianity, they don't really understand that God has sorrow, that God may have a grievance in his heart, a painful heart because of circumstances. This kind of understanding of God is strange to the Christian way of thinking. But True Father revealed that God is actually been experiencing sorrow because of the fall, that in fact, like the Father who is full of sorrow, and True Father heard directly God's tearful sorrow and heard God's tearful crying, and then decided that I will liberate God and invest himself completely for that. It wasn't a conceptual thing. Father experienced this, and that drove him to make that determination to liberate God. So imagine if there's a father on whom a massive rock had fallen down onto that father, and the father's under that rock and wailing in the suffering, and a son who hears that father wailing with that rock on him, how would the son respond? The son would do anything that he can to try and move that rock and thereby liberate his father from that pain. This is what we mean by the filial heart. And true father is the person who had that heart, has that heart to liberate God from the burden that's on him, the sorrow. From God's viewpoint, God's sorrow, because of the fall, is greater than all of the accumulated sorrow of human beings from 6,000 years of suffering. God's suffering was even greater than the suffering of all of humankind, accumulated of 6,000 years, because God is the parent and feels that even more than the child. So true father explained that God, when God experiences joy, unlimited joy, and when God is sorrowful, experiences unlimited sorrow. That's our father. This is what true father explained to us. So God is the original substance of joy and all those emotions, and created the child as original object. And the most sorrowful person in the world is that person who has lost the object of his love. There's no one that I can love. So a parent who has lost a child is the greatest sorrow, when that object, that being that the parent longs to love, dies and disappears. That's the greatest sorrow, because the loss of the object of love. What about child? A true filial child, when the parent is in suffering, the sorrow experienced by a child is incredible. That's the true filial heart. So how about God? God is the original substance of love, and in order to express that, created a substantial object so that it could understand God as the original source of love, and through that substantial object to experience love and perfect love and bring it to completion. But in any case, to manifest and express and perfect love, there must be an object. So God's emotional nature, apart from intellect and emotional nature, then there is will, there's volition. And within that, there is the functions of decision, determination, and carrying out that execution of that determination. So decision. When we want to, let's say we have a rally to achieve some sort of goal, we make a decision. We talk about kyori, making our heart or determining our minds to achieve that end. So within God as well, there is nature within God that decides, makes the determination to achieve that goal formed within his heart. When, in the beginning, in the early history of the church, when there were 36 couples, there were some people of the 36 couples who had not been blessed. Rev.Yu, President Yu was the one who took Father's words and tried to organize those and put it into a state. And then amongst those early members, there was this discussion, well, what's primary to God? Is it intellect or is it emotion? Is it intellect first or emotion first? Well, some people said that the fall was because of love, therefore it's an emotion is first. But then they said because of the fall, then there was ignorance, so it was intellect that was primary. So President Yu, Mrs. Gill, who's the wife of President Yu, you take over?
So I asked Father, should it be intellect, emotion, will, or emotion, intellect, and will? Mrs. Sagyocha asked me to ask Father, so I did. And Father said it was intellect, emotion, and will. And I asked him why. Because that is a... And so within intellect, there is emotion and will, and within emotion there's intellect and within will there's intellect and emotion. So there's no need to say that which is first, because they're all one. And so he just said to go ahead and write it intellect, emotion, and will. And it's, so, but she still insists that the emotion should come first. So then I asked him one other thing. So in the fall, he said that so we call these nature from Satan the fallen nature, right? And so we call it the original, the fallen original nature. And some people call it the fallen fundamental nature. And so she asked me to ask Father about that. And so I said, well, Father, is it the fallen nature? Is it the fallen original nature, fallen fundamental nature? And he said, the original nature comes from God. But he said, fallen original nature doesn't make sense. Well, what shall I do? I say, just say fallen nature, he said. Fallen nature, that's all it needs to be. And so in OSDP, we express it fallen nature. Do you understand? And so this kind of an important thing, we received a decision from a Father and wrote it exactly as he told us. And so this is not someone named Mr. Yu writing things down on his own will, his own desire. These are the functions of the inner and internal nature, and then there's also the inner external form, inner Hyongsang. And this is the ideas, the concepts, principles in mathematics. So what are ideas and concepts? Ideas are concrete representations. And then for example, if you have so ideas are concrete, and concepts are not concrete; they're abstract. And then what's the difference between abstract and concrete? Let me give you an example. The abstract would be like a video image, and it can be there and it will disappear. And when we look at that, then this concept is, for example, creating one person, then we'll do this abstractly or concretely. Is this going to be concrete or abstract? When you're going to create one person, it's going to be abstract. A human being, what does he look like? Do you understand? So it's not concrete. And so it's going to be male or female. What about the skin color? Is it white or black? Or is it yellow? And so if you just say person, then that's very abstract. You just say person, because you don't know what that is. But the actual human beings are very concrete. He looks like this. He has a head, he has a face, he has the 4 limbs, and he has all these functions. So it has to be very concrete. And so then we have all those functions up here, and then we have these hair, here, and here. Why did God stick this on here on the top of our heads? What do you think? Father, who's this? God had this idea, because there's the sun, and the head becomes hot, and if you damage the brain if it receives too much heat from the sun. So God gave us hair, and if that's not enough, we wear a hat, or we carry a parasol. So God had a very concrete representation there. And about the face, don't you think that God must have thought a great deal about this? Do you think he just did it at random? No, he had a very detailed design, and so then how wide is the forehead going to be, and then he gave us eyebrows below the below. So do you think this was on purpose? Do you think thought about it? Yes, because we sweat, and that our sweat shouldn't go to the eyes, and so as a primary defense against that, initial defense against that, it gave us eyebrows, and there's a little hill here, isn't there? And you see the sweat flows across to both sides, and then it still comes down. So then the secondary defense then is the eyelashes, and then also our eyelids are set so that they will close automatically if something is flying toward us. And also we have our tear ducts, and we can cry our entire lives, and still the tear ducts will not go dry. So if that weren't that fact, we'd have to put liquid in there. But he gave us tear ducts, but they don't just always produce liquid. Why is that? But when we come to, there's a sun in this world, and there's the ultraviolet rays, and if we just hit our eyes, then our eyes will be damaged, and so there has to be liquid there. And it's difficult for us to keep putting liquids there, and so God made it so that the liquid would flow there. So it is because God created us with this very detailed design that it is there. All right, what about the nose? And why did he make the nose? So in the nose too, here, why didn't he turn it upside down? As he made it this way. Why not upside down? And why did he make it vertical? But if the eyes are vertical, so if the nose are horizontal, eyes are horizontal. If the nose are horizontal as well, it would look very strange. But God wanted to make it very beautiful, and so to give it so that he gave us a nose like this. And this nose, who does it represent? It represents human beings. Love, I'm sorry. Love, it represents love. I'm sorry, it represents human beings. That was right the first time. Because human beings are the ones that stand on our 2 feet. In other words, we point towards heaven and towards earth. And all the other creatures are horizontal. But human beings are the only ones that stand on our 2 feet and are vertical, towards heaven and towards earth. Our head points towards the earth, and our 2 legs towards the earth. And the eyes represent God. When there's a life form forming, what forms first? It's the eyes that form first. First the eyes form, and then everything else comes after that. And so then within the human body, the only thing that moves is the eyes. The nose does not move. The mouth, the ear does not move. Only the eyes move. You understand? And the eyes itself are round. And so, what did God want this to be like? They resemble God in the fact that they're circular, they're spherical. And we don't sleep with our eyes open. We close our eyes when we sleep because we are protecting them. And also, when something is flying toward us, we close our eyes. And we don't say, "Hey, stop that." We just close our eyes automatically. And so then look at the nose. In this nose, why did he give us 2 nostrils and not just one big one? Why is that? Why did God give us 2 and not 1 nostril? when we in our lives, so sometimes we catch cold, and then our nostrils become congested, stopped up. And if it were only one, and it just became congested, we wouldn't be able to breathe through the nose. And so he gave us two, so we could always use one if the other one became stopped up. And so then we never have. If we both became stopped up, then we breathe through our mouths, and then also the mouth, yes, mouths also. So God, in order to protect life, He gave us such a precious design and very concrete design. So now this nose represents humans. That's why there are two. So if you come here, there's one. And so that's why when two need to become one, and that's why we say husband and wife are one heart. So then the eyes, nose, and the mouth, they all are connected. If you hold your nose and blow out, then air will come out through your eyes and through your ears. They're all interconnected. So there's nothing that is blocked. And then when you look at the mouth. Mouth represents all things. The forehead, spirit world, the eyes, the God, the nose, human beings, and the mouth represents all things. And so, and if you look at the mouth, you can see, you can tell a lot about a person. Sometimes a person has a very thick lips. Those are people who have much blessing. They're blessed in food, and there's some people with small mouths, and some people have big mouths. People don't have the same size mouths. And then some people have very thin lips, sometimes. Those people speak very well. Some people with the big lips aren't able to speak so well, but these people with thin lips. They speak well, so sometimes they are fraudsters because they speak well, good at speaking. But if they do good things, they can convince people to do good things. So that's why human beings have, because they're fallen, they have two aspects. So, but and then the ears are on each side here. So if the eyes were front and back like this, like the ears, and then you'd be able to see 360 degrees. But now we can only see in front. We can't see what's going on behind us. So why did God put eyes here? When you're doing things, you have to focus, and so that you have to do that in order to take it. But you can't focus with just one eye, and so when you're able to focus with two eyes, then you can measure distance. If you have the headlights on the car, it's the same thing. And so the eyes, He gave us two eyes in the front. If they were in front and back, we have to go to sleep. When we have about, you would be sleeping on one eye, because one eye would be on the pillow. And so God thought of all this. He's very concrete, very detailed. And then why are the ears on each side like this? And why did He just give us holes in our heads? Why did He give us these ears like this? So that's so we can hear better. If we can't hear, we put our hands like this, don't we? And when we hear sounds, and we have both sides, and so we can hear 360 degrees. It's not just so. And when we hear something, first the ears hear it, and then the eyes follow that sound, find where that sound is. So all these things are things that the God could design very concretely. And so the human beings are just a human being that's abstract, but then each individual is very detailed. And then when people become old, the eyes don't see very well, so then you have to wear glasses. And if you don't have ears, where are you going to hang your glasses? That's why God put ears on both sides like this. And so He gave us like this so they could wear glasses when we get older. And even that, God even thought of all that. says, so how grateful we are to God because He's our Father, and that is how He designed us. Do you understand? So then, the ideas and concepts have these differences. So then, God already, He had an idea and a concept, and He gave us a design, and then, so He Himself, because He knows all this, that He had these ideas and concepts. So someone who doesn't know cannot draw a design if you don't know about them. So if you're going to be a person who builds a building today, he has to offer a great deal of sincerity and dedication in order to draw a design. And so then the ideas and concepts are in the God's songsang, that is in the inner aspect, but it is the inner external form. It is within His original internal nature. So this is the part of the. So within. So God within His mind, He is drawing these designs, and so there's intellect, emotion, and will, and then ideas and concepts within. And then after that, then you have to draw the design after you have the concept, and this is done by the principle. And so the design is drawn, and this is very concrete. So here, how many inches here, how many inches here, this is mathematical, and so that is why we have the principle and mathematics within God's the inner external form. So when we have to design something, we have to say, okay, the height is going to be so much, and the width is going to be so much. So no matter how complex it is, it's all done in a principle and mathematically. You understand? So why are we doing this? Why do human beings do this? Because God, who created us, did it this way, and we resemble Him. That is why we do it when we design something. And so by that songsang, then what is designed then is actually appears, and that is the original external form. And this is the external thing, and this is the and it also has an outer internal nature and an outer external form. So the outer internal nature of the original external form has principle, law, and order. So God does not, He's omnipotent, but He just doesn't do things randomly. He does always done by principle and by law and by order, within the order. And so He is He always works according to principle, law, and order. And so we need to, so for God to be able to work with us, we must live according to the principle and by the law and within the order. And so if we leave the principle, then there is no law or order. We break all that apart. And so that is why the principle is so precious. But today, we know, many people know the principle but are leaving the principle despite knowing it. This is our issue. This is a problem. So right now, we're trying to get rid of problems, but actually we ourselves are creating problems that we should be solving. Who's going to solve those? Only God. We can't see God. Only true Father. But now He's not here in substantial form, but He knows everything. So He's watching from the spirit world. And the spirit world is not someplace far away. It's here with us. So, and everyone who is here in this room have a minds that and a character that resemble God, and you have a principle, law, and order. And if everyone was living here according to the principle, then God would be able to come here, and He would be able to come here directly. So, even no matter how much we may call on God to come, no matter how much we may call on God to Father to help us, He would not be able to do that if we are not living within the principle, with the law and order. And even if He came, He would not be able to do His work here. And so today, He's in the spirit world, so why he's in the spiritual world? Why can't he do what he wants here on the earth? So if things are going wrong, why can't Father just reach out and solve it? That's because the spiritual work has to be done in the partner area. So if the partner to Father is against the principle, against the law, and against the order, then he cannot work there, because he is the substantial God, and so he must work within the principle, law, and order. This is the sadness, the sad thing that we have. This is our pain. So then, within the original external form, the outer external form of the universal prime energy, this is the pure power. This is the energy that allows everything to exist, and is a fundamental universal prime energy is what we call it. And within God's original external form, we call this the outer external form. And it's a universal prime energy, is a pure power, and it's used according to a certain purpose, based on a certain motive, and when this happens, we call that the love power, and it's a wave-like, and it's also a particle medicine, and also we can say that it's a vibrating. So it's a wave nature, particle nature, and wave nature, and when it appears, what shall we say, the impulse, that we call that, centering on God's Shimjong and love, we call that wave nature. And so then, this love power then is based on the motive of Shimjong, and so the Shimjong is an irrepressible impulse of wanting to love an object partner, and so then this takes a pure power, and it expresses it in terms of a certain purpose and motivation, and so there are two kinds of energy. One is a material energy, and the other is the love energy that is based on a wave. And so then there is a material. This is the material aspect, and it contains the ingredients and materials to create all things. And one is the material aspect, and this is the and then this is the form aspect, and this is the appearance and the malleability, and this is within the universal prime energy. This is the material or matter, and this is to create a certain object within a certain that has a certain appearance. And this is the within God's original external form, and within that external form, there's outer and internal nature and outer external form. So that is how God. We've explained now how God's structure is very detailed, and so then God dual characteristics of original internal nature and original external form. Talk about this a little more detailed. We talk about God's divine form. He is the dual, harmonious union of original external form and original internal nature, and also of yang and yin, original yang and original yin. But we have this. But if you look at this, what we've written here, God is the harmonious subject partner and harmonious unified body of the dual characteristics of original internal nature and original external form. But original external form is the form, as the external form, but it has also internal aspect. That energy is like the mind, and is mind-like energy, And so so you can say mind is in the energy, mind is in the energy, and energy in the mind. So the original substance of the principle is the original substance of the energy. That is what God is. He is we cannot see energy, but He is the original substance of energy, and this is the harmonious subject, because of the mind is energy, and energy is mind. If we that itself is it is harmoniously unified, but there's the subject partner. So then there's the cause. So then the subject partner that is the cause, this can only be one person. So and we call this the subject. Although he cannot be seen, we call that he is substantial. And then as we in a divine principle, we learned that he is the harmonious subject partner of harmonious unified body of dual characteristics of original internal nature and original external form. So he's a unified body, harmonious unified body. And then, but he is the original substance of energy, and he is the harmonious subject. Well, just by that, he's not a unified body yet. But when you have mind and body, that is he is the unified body, though of dual characteristics, and that unified body is the resulting being. And I will talk about that more in the next chapter. So the God who is the original substance of the principle, that he is the causal, and he is unique. And we cannot see him, but he is substantial. But so here and dual characteristics are together, and they are unified body. But the unified body is the resulting being. So where is this then? It is attribute of the causal being. And so he is the unique being, and so he is the we call this the unique theory, uniqueness theory. So when we look at it externally, we have spirit and matter, spirit and material. So it looks like it's dual. It looks like a dualism when we see just the appearance. But there is a lot of discussion about this today. So about dualism, and we say that this is just materialism or spiritualism. So these two have been in contradiction with each other. But we call him a unified body. So the divine form, because it has a nature to be unified. If they did not have a nature to be unified, then they would never become unified. So for example, water, ice, and steam are homogeneous as H2O, even though they differ in appearance as liquid, solid, and gas. So how would we say that these are one? Because essentially they are all H2O, because they can be unified based on the fact that they are homogeneous as H2O. And so liquid is H2O, and ice is H2O, and gas is H2O. And they appear to be a liquid, solid, and a gas, but they are all homogeneous as H2O. So but water and oil are both liquids. They're both liquids, but they cannot become one. Why is that? But they will never become one. Why is that? It's because they do not have homogeneity. Instead, they have heterogeneity. Why then is God a unified body? It's because he is homogeneous within himself. But because in appearance, he appears as heterogeneous. As the mind and body, it's difficult to unite these incorporeal and corporeal, it's difficult to unite these. But the original substance, though, is homogeneous, and so that is why they are able to unite. So then the original nature and external form appear heterogeneous in their resultant appearance, non-corporeal, corporeal, and spirit and material and mind and body. But the original essence of the original substance is homogeneous. So it is not a dualism. So we call this monism, or the appearance is dualistic, but in essence, though, it is homogeneous. And so until now, the people who insisted on dualists there look only at the appearance. The appearance appears that way, the result appears that way, but they have to look at the essence of that. And so the original substance of the principle is a unified body. So many people have said that the essence of the universe is a spirit, or others say that no, it is only material. And so is it a spirit or matter, or is it a mind or body? There's been this struggle. But you're not a human being. You cannot be a human being if you only have the mind. You have to have a body. You cannot be a human being if you only have the mind. Only have the body. You have to have a mind. But some people are trying to divide this, and they cannot. So only mind, only spirit, only material, only matter. So we cannot divide it that way. But because the original substance of the principle is not a dual thing, but it is a unified body of two things. And then this is called atheism and atheism. But we call this a neither one, but it is the one theory, is the unity theory, only one theory. Only one theory. And so ideology, and so we call this the only one ideology, because it is only, and then so the ideology of only one. So where does this come from? Well, God is one, and He is the Father, and so the only one theology is the ideology of the Father, and so it is the ideology also of the children. And so then Kim Il-sung, for example, they insist on a Juche ideology, but they take God away and say that human beings are the only thing. And Father went to North Korea and said that is wrong. How can human beings be in the subject partner? Human beings are in the object partner position, and there's only God. There's only what we have to believe. Then the only one ideology, which is about God. And so, if you want to call it a Juche ideology, then call it a Haranim Juche. There's a God's Juche ideology. And then he stood in the Capitol building. He stood in front of all the core leaders of North Korea and declared this way. They were all people were holding guns there, and he talking about criticizing Juche ideology. And no one would be able to survive that kind of a situation. But he proudly stood there and courageously stood there and said that Juche ideology is wrong. And only one ideology is wrong. And this was when Kim Il-sung was alive, and he taught them clearly that you're wrong. And no, I don't care how much Kim Il-sung shouts this and insists this, but the owner of the universe says it's wrong. And he spoke that way in Kim Il-sung. And then later, Kim Il-sung died. So if he had not gone then, what would have happened? We cannot imagine. One leader said, "Father, you went to North Korea and you were a victory." And you know what Father said? "Hey, I went into the lion's den and came out," he said. "I went into the mouth of the lion. If the lion just had closed his mouth, I would have died. But I went into the mouth of the lion." But he didn't go a second time. they took them in a car and just let father and mother go in there. And so father and mother were alone in the car with the North Koreans. So they could have gone anywhere. They could have taken father anywhere. And, he died. I know he was old, and so he could have, he suddenly died. Father even considered this, that they would do that in North Korea, because no one was protecting him. He had no bodyguards there in North Korea. And so, but he met Kim Il-sung and spoke this way. He was ready to die there. He went into the mouth of the lion, and if the lion had closed his mouth, he would have died. And that is how he expressed it. But even then, if he had not gone then, what would have happened? No one would have told them that only one ideology is wrong. No one would have testified to that. So then next, the democracy and communism, there's a certain, but we don't, but the Father says not democracy, not communism. What kind of ism? Godism. And that's how the principle calls it. And also unification thought, and also VOC, we speak of Godism. And then that thought is we call it, we refer to right wing and left wing. So it is the right wing and left wing. So right now in Korea, there's a very extreme division here. And here the right and left are they separate? No. Are they on the right hand or on the left hand? So neither one is the owner. But the orders come from the head. If the two are going to clap, then there has to be an order to do that from the head. If only one hand comes and the other doesn't, we don't have clap. So the two have to become one. And the right cannot tell the left to come. The left cannot tell the right to come. The head has to tell them. The head has to make oneness. And so this is a head-wing ideology. And so here in right and left, they're like the wings, like a bird has wings. And so we call them left wing and right wing, but the people say, why can we have just a head and not two wings? But right wing and left wing don't actually refer to wings, but actually left side and right side. So then, head wing ideology is God's ideology and True Father's ideology. And so what is that? That is God's, and that is the ideology of true love. It lives for the sake of others, it invests in others, and it wants to give and give and give, and still wants to give, and it never stops giving. So if God stopped giving, what would happen? He would not be God then. And he cannot be the subject partner then. He cannot be the owner then. And so then today, what if someone asks, well, today wants 10, wants 100, wants 1,000 tomorrow, but he has to fulfill all that. You understand? So that only true love can do that. And so and that's why he is the God of true love. And so that is why he is the owner and the subject partner. And so then, and as he continues to give and can be a give, and we call it, because that is rooted in Shimjung. And Shimjung is a true Shimjung. Why? Because the fallen world also has Shimjung. It is a world that comes from the archangel, and then but within that, what there still is the original nature. So there's a little bit of a seed of the Shimjung in the original mind, so what Father wants us to be expressed as true love and true Shimjung. So then we'll read this. Arguments for dualism in existing philosophies arise from an ignorance of the homogeneity of internal nature and external form. If internal nature and external form, which are attributes of the original substance, are seen as heterogeneous rather than homogeneous, there would be a dualism that gives rise to friction, conflict, and struggle. And so if there were two substances, this would be true. If this were the case, there would be no way to solve the problems of today's world. God's ideal of creation for an ideal of peace, unity, and happiness would not be realized. Thus, the original substance of the principle is a unique being and a single being. He is God. This one being, God, is the absolute subject and partner. In conclusion, God is the harmonious subject partner of original internal nature and original external form, and he exists. To say that he is a subject partner, he is the original substance of principle and of energy, and this energy is mind, and the mind is energy, and so it is a harmonious energy, but it is not a unified body, but it is the substance, is the original substance. But the Songsang and Hyongsang, they make a unified body. So this is a harmonious unified body. But this unified body is not the cause, but it is the result. So the unified body is the attribute, and the attributes are the object partner to the original substance. And so then, understanding the original substance of OSDP, this is things that you have not heard. The original substance as seen from OSDP. So then, this is a harmonious, unified body, and so this is the original substance as seen from the OSDP is the original substance of energy, and these two energies are one. So that is the harmonious subject, and so that is why he is the only one who is God. There's a mind-like energy, and energy-like a mind, and then this is this is the subject partner, and there's only one. But then the two characteristics are resultant, and so they are harmonious, unified bodies, and it's the pre-energy, and this is what all of creation was created from. And then when you look at all creation, when it is a substantial coming out from God, and then that form is a God appearance of God, and there's a pre-energy. In other words, it existed first. It's a pre-energy. So when you say, then you have a Songsang-like, mind-like energy, and energy-like mind, and these exist as a harmonious, unified being. So then, this is the only one being, and it's the original substance is the original substance of energy, and that is the and that also, and that's the unified body is the resultant being. And this is the only unique God, and so. This is very difficult to translate because I'm not sure why, but anyway, it's very, very difficult to translate because it's difficult to understand. But the conclusion is that God cannot be two. explanation of how God cannot be two, but has to be one.
그래서 원인적 존재인 하나님도 아버지 하나님, 어머니 하나님이시다. 그래서 하나님을 부모라고 부른다.
So we call God our parent.
자, 이런
And so,
이런 얘기를 보면 그럴 수도 있겠구나 이렇게 생각하죠. 아니다.
but we cannot say that God is heavenly parent. He's a parent, but internally he's parent, but externally he's one. And so the internal aspect that appears in the as Adam and Eve, and when they become true parents, then they become the substantial God, and then the God enters the body and it appears as the substantial God, substantial true parents. But in the completed Testament age, we call him Father, and we call them true parents. And if they become the substantial true parents, then God would take on Father's body to become the substantial true parents. But the most precious words in the complete Testament age is true parents. So in the New Testament age, it was Father. It was but Father says the most important, precious word in the complete Testament age is true parents, and he is the Father, and within him the two attributes of God appear within true Father. That is the perfected true parents, and then for the first time, then God can take on the substantial body as true parents, and so Adam is our true parents, and is Eve also true parents? No, that's not true. So then, who is the substantial body of God? It is Adam. So Adam is the son and also God's body. So then, what is Eve then? They grew up together, and she's the daughter. So she is the daughter of God and the bride and the wife of Adam. So then, and vertically speaking, the subject partner is God, the Father, and the object partner is Adam, the Son. And so then when the mind and body become one. And the visible Adam is the substantial God. And then horizontally speaking, who is Eve? In terms of substantially, he is the wife and bride of Adam. And so to explain more deeply, Adam's wife is also God's wife, because this Adam is the substantial God, because he appears that way. So she can also be God's wife. So we have to go to that point. So a mother needs to go to that point. Do you understand? So to do that, so she must become the wife of the true Father. That position, we say that the queen, in other words, that the wife of the king is the queen. So she has to be the wife of the true parents, and also to wife of God. There's 8 stages that she has to go through to reach that. And so no one has taught that. Father taught me this. So then, but now it's time for me to start teaching this. There is a path that a mother must go, a principled path that she must go, and there is a principled mission that she must accomplish. That path, she must go through 8 stages. Following whom? Following Father. Not Father following Mother. Do you understand? So because of that, she has a certain responsibility that she must do as the mother. And there are a number of things that will contain in that. And she must accomplish them, all of them. Cannot leave out even one. But no one has explained this. No one has said to her, this is what you must do. This is the mission that you must accomplish. These are your responsibilities. No one is telling her this. And she doesn't want to listen either. So, but But today, here, at least externally, I am shouting this, and I hope that this content reaches her. So she may think that I deserve to be killed, but at least I have to say that what is right and what is wrong. And we have to teach that. That is the responsibility of the person who teaches, educates the principal, because that is what the Father taught. So then the substantial body, as seen from the OSDP, are in the end is the harmonious unified body, and so then one person internal and external. But he's one, but he has internal and external. But he's only one. He is not two. Now, let's go to the Songsang and Hyongsang as seen from OSDP. We said that Songsang Hyongsang was external. We said that is one, and has original Songsang, original Hyongsang, and that God is the harmonious union of these two. So why do we say this? So the original substance of the principle. So Songsang Hyongsang as seen from OSDP. So then I will read this. I'm sorry this has not been translated to English, but I will do my best to translate the Korean. God existed prior to the existence of the universe. He is a unique, eternal, and unchanging existence. And then how did he come? How did he come into being? And Father said he came into it. He came into being by love. He came into being by love. So how did the foundation of the universe come into being? There was a seed of love, and there was a seed of love that became God by the Songsang and Hyongsang. So God existed before the universe, and so before that there was a seed of love, and in that seed absorbed the object partner, or the partner, and God appeared as Songsang and Hyongsang. Is that strange? So these are not my words. So then let's look at the next. So centering on what did this happen? This came about centering on love. Same as you. In other words, the same way that we came. So we came about by the love of our mother and father, and one cell came out and grew into what we are today. And so that is also God. Same thing happened with God. So the one love, there's because like the sperm fertilizes the ova, and it creates one cell, and then so it also began with one cell. So also God, eyes came about, and then the nose, and then the mouth, and Father said that God also came about the same way. So God also came into being. That God also grew. How? Because of love, by the love. And so the seed of love, there was a seed of love. And then, so it is the same way as with the human being. How did God come into being? He began with a cell of love, and grew from that. So it is the same as human beings. This is in volume 207 of Father's collected works, page 27, and page 1526 on the Korean Cheonsonggyeong, 1526. That would be the Korean version, but they've taken it out of the Cheonsonggyeong that they made. This is the most important thing. But they took it out. Why? Why? Because they don't know. So they don't know why this kind of content is there, and so they do strange things. So if they had known this, I don't think they would be able to say what they're saying today if they had kept this in there. In other words, God also came into being. Why did He come into being? How? By love. I'm not sure if it's why or how, but by love. So then the foundation of the universe came from love. How did God come into being? By love. This is volume 198, Father's Words, 237, page 237. So what is the foundation of the universe? The root of the universe is the universe began with love. The scientists say that the universe is of energy or force. They see that the function of they look at just the function of the energy, and they say, but we know that it comes from love. It came by love. And this is Father's Collected Works at page 247, page 119. So, why does God exist? Why does He want to exist? Why? Because of love, and so that is why He needs the object of His love. And so then, the omniscient and all-powerful God created the object of His love. This is in volume 208, page 231 of Father's Collected Works. Father already taught us everything. Father already taught us all. But it's in the collected works, and then they don't understand it, and so they just take it out, and they don't know how to use it. And then Father said this, that he said, I've created a diamond mountain for you, but that can be. But he said that there are precious jewels, all sorts of precious jewels within the mountain that I've created for you. And you can, if you need a diamond, you can take a diamond from the mountain that I've created for you. If you want to create the earrings, if you want to make a ring, or if you whatever you want to, you can chisel it out from the mountain, the precious stones that I've created for you, and you can create from that. And so he said, take what you want, take what you need, and then this is the. This is all within the words that Father has left us, the hundreds and up to 1,000 volumes of works that He's given us. But these words, but we must not take away. We must not erase even one word of those, because the meaning will change. People cannot just change it by their own thinking, by their own opinion. Hear about this? Absolutely not. Today, if we do that today, then the world will go in the wrong way if that's done today. So that's the most important thing for us, is for us to maintain Father's words as they are. So who's going to do that? We have to do it. But we don't have the place for to do it. We cannot go near them. This is the issue. So Father's words, he said, cannot be, it has to be, these words have to be preserved not just in one place, but in many places, at least 3 places, because if they're just in one place, they could be damaged. So it has to be at least 3 places, he said, because the most important, most precious thing. This is, we cannot buy these words with any amount of money. And if we are not doing this well, then we are truly sinners. So what is the center? What is the center of love? It is God, and He is the eternal and the unchanging existence who existed before the universe, and the Shimjung. Love is the flow of the Shimjung. It comes from the Shimjung, and so the internal Shimjung. Internal Shimjung flowing outwardly is the love. So God's essence is Shimjung. But how is it that God was able to create the universe and human beings? Is because He maintained His and protected His Shimjung. And so, where there is Shimjung, only where there's Shimjong can there be life, and where there is life, then there can be development and creation. And in these creation must always have a purpose, and that must come from Shimjong, and so that that is a joy. That the purpose is joy. So the creation always has a purpose, but that purpose is joy. So then, how is this possible? Shimjong is the root of true love, we said, and if a Shimjong dies, then there is no true love. So if there's no true love, there can be no true life. So without a true love and true life, there cannot be true lineage. So then love or life, which is first? Which is first? Some say it's a love and say that life is left. So others say no, that's not true. Because we have life, we can love. So life is first. Some people say this, but Father said it was love. Love, because love is there, we can have life. So because unless our father and mother loved each other, we would not have life. So love is first. So sometimes human beings will throw away their life for the purpose of love. We become we are absolute. So for love. So this kind of content we cannot speak this way in a secular society. So then, how is it that God could create the universe and human beings by Shimjong in love? So this is not Rev.Yu speaking, but this is in Father's Collected Works, volume 65, 258, and Cheonsongyong 1527 in the Cheonsongyong, in the Korean version of that. And Father has already taught us all this. And we didn't know when he was teaching this to us. We had no idea what he was talking about. But now we can see it because it is preserved for us to study. So conclusion, God, who is the original substance of the principle, is the original substance of energy, and he is a harmonious union, a subject. He is the unique being, and he was the unified body of original Seongsang and original Hyongsang. And he is also the God of Shimjong and a true love and our character. So I've gone 10 minutes over, so let's extend our break also by 10 minutes. So let's I'm sorry that I went over, but I had to go this far in order to come to the end of the section.